Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that can literally make or break a company, the internal compliance culture audit. So let's jump right in.
You know, we've all seen the shocking headlines, these huge corporate scandals that seem to just explode out of nowhere. But here's the thing, these disasters weren't just about a few bad apples. They were rooted in something way deeper, a corporate culture that started to value profits way more than ethics.
And that really begs the question, right? How do companies with these amazing codes of conduct and perfectly written policies on paper go so spectacularly wrong? Well, the answer, as we're about to find out, is hiding in that gap between what a company says it values and what its culture actually rewards.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with why these audits are so incredibly important and then really define what they are. After that, we'll get practical with a guide on how to actually do one, how to turn those findings into real, lasting change, and finally, how to get around the common hurdles you'll almost definitely face.
Okay, first up, why should you even care about a culture audit? Well, it's all about seeing the invisible, those hidden risks that are lurking in your company's everyday culture.
And believe me, this is a massive blind spot for a lot of organizations. One study found that a staggering 58% of internal audit departments don't audit their company's culture at all. Just think about that for a second. More than half are basically flying blind on what could be one of their biggest operational risks. It's kind of crazy.
So, what's the upside of doing one? Oh, it's huge. A proper culture audit can help you prevent scandals before they happen, meet those ever-growing regulatory expectations, and you know what? It can even boost your overall business performance. Most importantly, it closes that dangerous gap between your official policies and what people actually do day to day. It gives you a real baseline to measure your progress.
So now that we've got the why down, let's get into the what. What exactly is a culture audit? As you'll see, it's a whole lot more than just your standard compliance check.
A culture audit is really a deep dive into the shared values, the attitudes, the behaviors inside an organization. I love this metaphor the source material uses. It's like an evaluation of your company's workplace DNA. It's not just about the written rules. It's about those unwritten norms that guide every single decision, every single day. And here's the absolute key difference. A traditional audit asks a simple question: are we following the rules that are written down? But a culture audit goes so much deeper. It asks, do our actions day in and day out actually match up with the values we claim to have? It's about measuring the walk, not just listening to the talk.
Okay, so we know the what and the why, so how do you actually do this thing? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the tools and techniques for conducting a real culture audit.
The whole process really breaks down into 6 key steps. It always starts with good planning and getting buy-in from your leadership. Seriously, without that, the whole thing is pretty much dead in the water. From there, you collect input and review records, then move on to the really crucial analysis phase, where you start seeing patterns. Finally, you report what you found, and here's the most important part, you take action. Now, getting the right data means you can't just rely on one thing. You've got to use a multi-pronged approach. Anonymous surveys are great because they encourage people to be brutally honest. Then you have interviews and focus groups to add that rich detail and nuance, and you combine all of that with direct observation and a deep dive into HR records. That way, you can cross-reference what people say is happening with what the data shows is happening. Gathering all this data is one thing, but its real power, its real value, comes from turning those insights into actual lasting change. So let's talk about how you build that roadmap. The crucial thing here is connecting the dots. So take a look at this. Let's say you find that people are afraid to speak up. The root cause is probably a lack of trust that they won't face retaliation. So the solution? You strengthen your whistleblower policy and you train your managers. Or maybe you see people bending rules to hit their goals. The cause is probably misaligned incentives. The action? You've got to rebalance those performance metrics. See? It's all about smart, targeted fixes. And I can't stress this enough. An audit report that just sits on a shelf is completely worthless. Its value is only unlocked when you have a crystal clear action plan, when specific people have ownership for each item, and when you have measurable goals to track your progress. At the end of the day, accountability is everything. All right, last section. We need to be realistic and talk about the challenges. Auditing something as, soft as culture is never easy, and it means you have to navigate some pretty sensitive territory. You're almost guaranteed to run into a few common roadblocks. Your employees might be too scared or just too checked out to participate honestly. You might get some resistance from managers who don't like what the findings say about them.
And even if you have good data, that biggest pitfall is always there: the simple failure to actually act on what you learned. So, how do you get past these hurdles? Well, two things are completely non-negotiable. First, you have to promise and deliver absolute confidentiality. That's how you build trust. And second, you need visible, vocal support from the very top. The whole organization needs to see that leadership is taking this seriously.
As we start to wrap up, it's so important to remember that this is not a one-and-done kind of project. The source material puts it perfectly. A strong compliance culture isn't built by a single audit. The audit is just a kickstart for a continuous, ongoing program of improvement. And that really brings us to the final question, one I'll leave with you to think about for your own workplace. Beyond the fancy mission statement hanging on the wall, what is the true ethical heartbeat of your organization? An internal culture audit might be the only real way to find out.